Welcome back, everybody. We have another wonderful interview for you guys today. With us is the head coach of the Montreal Roses heading into their second season of the Northern Super League, Robert Rositoiu. Robert, thank you so much for stopping by. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How was your vacation? How was your time off? Did you get some rest, or do you feel refreshed now that training camp is about to start?
Yes, I do. I do, and obviously, when I do this job, every coach will know you coach, so you know how it is, how intense it is to be in this job. So sometimes it's time off the field, but not necessarily time off completely. But it's been the first time in 2 years that I really got the chance to take a few days, weeks with the family, especially after a big year for us, on the field, but outside too. So to take some break and just have clear ideas and do a good summarize of what the good things and the things that we need to improve on the season. It's been very refreshing. So looking forward to be back next Monday actually on the pitch.
Yeah, so at the time of the release of this interview, you guys will be back on the pitch. But a couple of days ago was your first time back. You guys put a video on social media. It felt like the first day of school. Everyone was really excited to see each other again. How was that? How was just les retrouvailles a little bit?
Yeah, it's that's exactly what we told the players. It's the place is taking life when they come back in. So it was great to see the old faces, like I like to call them, and the new faces. And there's a special spirit around this group, and I'm very privileged and proud to be able to work with them on a daily basis. It's the same thing with the staff and the whole club. So it was good, positive energy, lots of smiles. It's always the case in preseason anyway. So at least at this moment, it's good, because after that it gets trickier. It's normal, but no, it was good, and now we can wait to be back on the field. Where the first week was all about the medical tests and having one or two good meetings to set up the tone, and now slowly we're gonna build into the season.
Now, year one is finished. You made the playoffs for the first time, got knocked out in the first round, but overall, now that you've had a little bit of time away from the season, from the team and everything, and you can come back now, what was maybe some of your final takeaways from an inaugural season with the club?
Yeah, there were many, and obviously, I think as a club, we and as a coach, and that's why I think it's a good fit, is because we always have this growth mindset, coming from the owners to the players. We have this growth mindset, and we always look at things that we need to improve. The trick is that you have to be careful to remember, and as human beings, we tend to forget our strengths and what we're good at. And part of my job is also to remember what has been good, and lots of things has been good. The identity that we created, the way that we connected with the community, with the players, and that's something that we want to build on to go to the next level. The way we train, the way we do everything on a daily basis, it has been a success, and we can really build on that to continue to reinforce it. And on the other side, I think that obviously we saw that we didn't end the season the way we wanted to, the way I think we deserve to, also in terms of the efforts that we shown. And it's it's important that we look each other in the mirror, us, the staff, the players, and players already knew at the end of the playoffs. Some of the the regular players, they already said, well, we apologize and we want to do better. And I said, look, you don't have to apologize. We're all in this, and we can all do better. And when you're in a league that has six teams, you always want to win. You always want to become on top. And especially being from Montreal and having this culture, and the players, we have a lot of players from Quebec, from Montreal, and we do want to do well for our city and our province. So we put a lot of positive pressure on us to do well. We did it in the first year, and although we reached the objective, which was one of them was to qualify for the playoffs, we obviously were disappointed to not be able to go to the final and win the Diana B. Matheson Trophy. Um, and yeah, I think there's many causes of that. Obviously, we had a lot of injuries at the end of the season that didn't help. We play against the team, against Toronto in the playoffs, that was very good, that was flying. So it wasn't easy to choose the proper game plan, And obviously when we had this first game at home where I thought we played actually quite well, but we missed one breakaway with Cherim, one couple of chances with Lori, if you remember well, and it could have been easily 2-2, or we could have stayed more in the tie at that point. And then when we go to Toronto, when it's 1-0, it's actually 3-0. So that's very tough to take, but at the same time it's good experience. So it was a long answer because there's a lot of things. There's not only one thing. There's a lot of things that apply as takeaways, but again, I don't want to forget the positive because there's been plenty of that.
Yeah. You mentioned that, you didn't end the season the way you wanted to. And of course, people like Noemi Paquin getting hurt is a huge blow, especially going forward. But besides that, what were some of the what were some of the challenges that, comes with a full season, especially with a new group? Because you guys started the season on fire. You were first place for a good chunk of the season. And then, obviously challenges arose. Can you talk a bit about what some of those were and how you handle them as a group?
Yeah, challenges. The squad was, in terms of numbers, was a challenge because it's we have a cap, obviously, with the salary cap. We wanted also players to, and we worked a lot with Marinette even this year, players that don't only fit the football side but the human side, and then they have the personality that we want, and that's not easy to find. So we don't just want to recruit, but we want the good people that want to be at the club and that understand what that means. So that's always going to be a challenge. Now, for me as a coach, I would say the biggest challenge of them all is looking at a squad, knowing that you have maybe 13, 14, 20 players that should play, that deserve to play, but you can only choose 11. Automatically that creates frustration, that creates feelings, anxiety. It's normal, and I did my best to try to manage that group the best possible with the help of the staff, and I'm very thankful of the support that I have from that end too, and I thank them for that. So that has been one of the biggest challenges. Yeah, and
No,
it's
again,
normal, right? It's normal.
it is right. You're never going to have a season where there's no problems. It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
Now, you have a lot of experience, not just in women's soccer, but in Montreal women's soccer as well. How did maybe experiences from previous teams or organizations you were at help you in this first season? And what are some of the core lessons maybe that you've taken away from that?
Yeah, one of the things is, I know what it means for women here. I've lived it, to have a team, to have the chance to play in front of the your family, in front of your fans. Now you come to the biggest stage, professionally, and we wanted a lot of players from Quebec. Half of them in the first seasons were from here, and I think that was a it it's it was very important for me as a coach, for us as a club, to be able to look at who's ready and who wants to be in. And there's a lot that you saw Halifax signing a couple, you saw many elsewhere that do play, and we cannot have everybody. But that being said, it's a good thing, but it's also not easy to manage, because playing in Montreal, if you're from Montreal as a player, it creates an extra bit of pressure that when you do play somewhere else, you don't have to think too much about that. So we tried to manage that as the best that we could, to always bring the players on the task, on the tactical, technical task, on the game plan, on what we need to do to be able to have success on the day, every day, and not to think too much of the outside noise. Obviously, it was a pleasure, and it is a pleasure to know that we play at Stade Boreal in front of our fans, and but we have to be in mission mode, and that's not easy to do when obviously you're from here.
Now, moving on to the 2026 season. One quote that I really like from the head coach of the Montreal Victoire, who just recently also had their inaugural season a couple of years ago, was the reason that they were successful in their second year was they found out not just how to be successful and competitive as a team, but successful specifically in this league. So, what about your expectations of the NSL that you maybe had in 2025? Are you kind of readjusting? whether it's tactically or personnel wise, or just from a general philosophical point of view? What are you saying? Okay, if we want to do better in this league specifically, what what are certain elements that we need to bring in?
Yeah, we obviously we have a lot, but I'll give you a few. I think the most important ones, the first one is to continue to raise the standard. That's something that we've mentioned also. You were there on the moment that we ended the season, because we're there, the first year you
Mhm.
create, you implement stuff, you think about, do we have the nets, do we have the players, do we have the things that we need to do to, and the people that we need to be able to operate. And then you create slowly. It sounds like nothing, but it wasn't easy to just take players from different areas, different cultures, different styles. And it's not like you can be with 10 players or 15 that already know you. Or so you have to build everything from scratch in the first year. You have to build. And in the second, now we have to consolidate, especially what we've done well, and look at the tiny little details that we can improve. So in a general way, to answer the questions, we're always going to be looking to raise the standards in terms of what we demand for them, for the players, but also how we support them. And I'll give you a concrete example of that: the way we individualize the work, both physically, creating what we call IDPs, individual development plans for our players based on their positions. Now we know them, we know their strengths, their weaknesses, and but also from a technical perspective, from a mental perspective, because we need to understand the cognitive load of a team and of players to be able to plan that, and talk in a different way on a Wednesday than we do in a Friday just before the game, when we need to give confidence, compared to a Wednesday when we need to go at each other to be able to compete and win their place for the weekend. So all those details, we're able now to go more in details. And but it takes time, right? So that's one main thing. And another one, more on the player side, is every players will need to be able to perform at two positions. And again, when you take players that you don't know, you have to try. So there's many, like, I know Noemi can play as a winger, she can play as a center forward, she can also play as a 10. So you need to try those to be able to really see where she can fit the best, and who around her is she fitting the best with. And because of that, in the second year, you can also go more in depth.
Yeah. Speaking of specifically some stuff like that, some new players have been brought in this offseason. Three, Hanbin Choi, Evelyn Badu, and Elise Bennett. So three attacking minded acquisitions that you've brought in. It seems like very targeted profiles that you've gone out to find, right? A nine, attacking midfielders, technical quality. Can you talk a bit about what the process was like to bring them in and to convince them of the project, but also to what specifically about these three players was so attractive to you guys?
Yes, and I would add there's Lisa Perchersky as well.
Yes, of course,
She
yes,
did sign from one of the earliest to sign. But so if I may, I'm going to speak about the four.
absolutely, yeah.
You're spot on. The players were targeted in terms of positions. We know that we needed to continue to add quality and competition on that final pass, on that 10 position. And you've seen me as a coach, I listen to you from time to time, and it's great. And by the way, I want to thank you for everything that you and Andy you're doing for to put us forward, and to talk about us, and sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a way, I'm not going to say negative, but more like critical way. And I think it's part of it. And but you're talking, so because of your talking, I want to make this little parenthesis, right, to tell you thank you. And yeah, so we needed tens to be able to contribute to that final pass, to add quality in there. And I like to play with two tens in the way that I see the game. I think those pockets, those half spaces just in front of the back line are very important to have people there, and to be able to manipulate the space in there to create doubt on the opposition. So having players like Lisa and Evelyn there, I think it's very, very, very important. I know that Anbin can play there, but she can also play more as a fullback slash wingback, and that's something that she'll have to do to show us a little bit how she is in both of those positions, and obviously the number 9 position that we knew we had to fill, and we're very happy to have Elise as well joining.
Yeah. Now, one, I feel like this team, especially in the middle of the park now, is really starting to you getting a final impression of what the roster is going to look like. Last season, we saw a bit of 4-4-2. We saw some 4-2-3. We saw a lot of flexibility, obviously, but at the beginning of the year, at least, it was Charlotte and Ali Hess in the middle, and Charlotte Bilbao and Ali Hess in the middle, and then obviously Chloe Minas comes in, Felicia Roy. So there was a lot of different profiles in the middle of the park. This year, you have the addition of some of these players. Some of these players who can play as 10, some of these players who are defensive midfielders by trade. How does that, almost like playing like Tetris a little bit, how does that all going to fit together? And has your idea of what the midfield is going to look like maybe changed a little bit now that you've brought in these players and these different profiles?
Yes, 100%. So at the end of the season, I'll take Charlotte because Charlotte played a bit higher, but we knew, and I knew it wasn't her natural position, but we needed creation, and she has that final pass in her, and she's had many assists last season with that quality that she brings. So, but she's not necessarily a 10; she's more a 6 slash potentially a center back. She actually got trained when she was younger as a center back, and you would love to have her on honestly. And now that she's taking English courses, she would be a good challenge for her to be part of this. But no, so Charlotte is one, and then after that, the good thing that we have is that we have players that are different. Mara is different than Chloe, and but they all can bring just more than just being a 6, and is the same for the others. So Felicia, we saw that the potential that she has. So the fact that we have also midfielders that can be more box to box and not just pure 6 or pure 10, well, it creates good animation to play out from the back, and we want that. And after that, we're going to be looking to find those players that we mentioned before alongside others, because we must not forget that we also have the Laurie, the Claire that was at the first season, and that they can play in those pockets. Noemi, Tanya can play in those higher pockets, that they're not necessarily all midfielders, but they can play in the midfield to animate from the midfield. And so I think it's going to be important to count on everybody to use those spaces well.
Now, speaking of Charlotte, because I kind of wanted to speak about her, you have, one of the legends of the game come into your club to start off. What was her experience and just her impact in maybe establishing the culture at the beginning of this project, and also, going into this group now that has a lot of young, talented midfielders? How is she going to be relied upon in 2026?
Yeah, Charlotte was an instant fit with me as a coach and with the coaching staff, with the players. So obviously Marinette was spot on when she brought her. Only 1 or 2 players were there when I came in. So Charlotte was one of them, and I was very happy to meet her, and I was very glad that she accepted to join without knowing anything. And it was a perfect fit. Why? Because she has the perfect balance of confidence but humility, and she's so humble. She wants to continue to progress despite her being more at the end of her career. And I have a lot of respect for her, what she brings, and she's essential for us to she was in the first year to make sure she helps us teach the players that never played really pro what does that mean. And the best way she did it is always by showing the example. She can still progress obviously in lots of things, but the fact that she's demanding to video, demanding to technical advice, demanding of IDP, well, it's the perfect word for a coach, because you don't want somebody that yes can speak but that cannot show. And so with Charlotte we have both, and we're very happy that that she accepted to continue with us. Now we know that she's aging, like I said, towards the end of her career. So we'll see how we manage her to be able to get the best out of her. And we know that when she can play 90 minutes, but if when she plays 90 minutes, how she's gonna the body's gonna react afterwards. It's part of part of the reality. So we're gonna work together with her to manage her the best we can.
You mentioned some people, players that it's their first time in a professional environment. I feel like that's specifically in the back line. The three center backs that use the most. Capadonna, Hill, and Julia Lease all came from university. Um, Defensively speaking, though, it was probably one of the strongest points of the season. You guys were consistently the best defense, or one of the best defenses in the league. How did they, um, how did they approach this project, and how did you appreciate their development over the course of a full season, consistently being top level?
Yeah, they were very good, and now that obviously Olivia that came during the season that that brings a lot to the team as well. And Julia did play in the same team as Tanya before, so she did play a little bit professionally before. So she went
Okay.
from NCAA to Europe, and then she came. But like you said, Stephanie and Lucy were rookies. If you, but I don't like that
Mhm.
word, because that's exactly why, because they show that they can play in this league like veterans, and that they can be very good, and they were. So for different pathways, right? Lucy was more since the beginning, and she made her place. Stephanie came a bit later on, but when she came, she had a very good impact. And what they have in common is that they embrace pressure. They not only pressure from the fans or from playing at, it's pressure on the ball. To be able to play the way we want to play it, and the way I am as a coach, you need to not be scared about the no, 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 you need to embrace the pressure, to want it, to attract it, to understand that when a player presses you, there's space to exploit. And if we don't have that space, then we have another space, and so on. So I have lots of respect for them, because they embrace that quality, that it's much needed to play in this team. And they can continue to grow a lot in that area. And I would say actually that because they got and they are good on the ball, and they got better on the ball, it helped us defend better as a team. So yes, they play as a defenders, but with the keepers, they are the first attackers. So it was good to see them evolve in that area.
Now, I know that every coach hates this question, but it's way too early to make any predictions and way too early to make any kind of assumptions about the season. But based on the offseason you had and where the team ended last year, where and what are the expectations for 2026?
It is hard, and I understand why you say that coaches hate that. This is just because you have the paper, and then you have the field, and you look at the changes, but you can only look at that for now. And uh, but teams can change, formations, animations, principles. You can change the way that you play. And for that reason, it's impossible, to say. That the thing that I want to say is that obviously we have ambition. We saw that we can compete in this league, and we want to finish the highest possible, to be able to have a good chance to be in the playoffs, and then make something on the playoffs. So for us is we have the ambition, we have the confidence in our abilities, but also the humility to get to know our opponents again. What did they change? How can we approach every game and go one game at a time? I know it sounds cliche, but we really do want to make it even more this year. We did it last year, but even more, as every game it's a final, every game has its own story. And the first thing is to finish as high as we can. So we want to finish first, obviously, and all the teams will say the same thing. We want to compete for that first place, and or at least for that top two again, because there's a lot of quality in the league, but we want to be up there. And after that, we want to do our best to be able to have another type of success story in the playoffs after having a good season. So there's the both not pathways, but both situations that we want to be in. And believe me, making the playoffs is not easy, and being in the playoffs is a privilege that you work for. But it's something that you must not forget, that when you're there, some teams are not, and you have to take to make the most out of it. And once you're in the playoffs, it's you have to be limitless, right? So we're going to try to first reach that and then be more limitless than we were last season, but not in a way that we're going to look back to the first season. It's new beginnings. We go hard, we work well, and we'll see.
Now, before we end this interview, um, we usually have a little bit of a rapid fire, some questions off the cuff, just to get to know the our interview subject a little bit better off the field outside of football. It's still a little bit of football, but not maybe in their specific role. So we're just gonna first thought that pops in your head, or first answer that pops in your head, just really quick, and we're gonna get to go. So,
Let's do it.
favorite Romanian player besides Haji?
Because you see it. I would say Daniel Prodan.
What's the first thing that made you want to become a coach?
Connecting with people.
Who's the funniest player in the locker room?
Oof, there's many, but I have to go with. It's so tough. There's many. There's many. I'll go with Olivia.
What's your first real proud coaching memory?
It was when I first one of the first is when I entered the CF Montreal's academy. That was a feeling that okay, there's something special. Let's discover what it is.
Who's your favorite team to play against in the NSL?
I do like to play everybody, to be honest, because everybody has their own style, and I like the way a lot, even though it sounds like yeah, we lost to them, but I did enjoy to play Toronto a lot. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. The other way around now. Who's your least favorite team to play against in the NSL?
Oh, I would say Halifax because we didn't have much. I don't want to say luck. I think we did miss. We had some bad luck against them, but at the same time, it's credit to them for the extra points that they be able to 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 get against us. And again, I have lots of respect for them and the way they work, the coach, the club. They're an amazing organization. But next year I'm gonna try to to be on the same level. But yeah, I didn't like to play against them sometimes. At the end
Your
of the
favorite
game,
your favorite coach working right now who's not named Robert Rositoiu?
oh, lots. But look, I always go with Pep. I guess that's the easy part. But I'll go with Roberto De Zerbi.
So the guy who's looking for work now.
Yeah, maybe he wants to come to the Roses.
If you have an assistant spot open up, maybe you can send him a message. Now, last one. The best we ask all the Roses players is best dressed on the team.
Oh, um, tough, very tough. But I'll go with Anne Marie. She can surprise. She has that extra thing that make you okay. Like she would come with a cowboy hat, for example. But
I love that.
and
You gotta keep people guessing sometimes. You know.
yeah, exactly. And I do want to come back also to the previous questions, if you allow me. I These are the Pep, Roberto De Zerbi, obviously, but one that I got to know and I had the privilege to know from more, but that's very inspirational for me, and I really admire. And it's Wilfred Nancy, so he's on that
Mhm.
list too, on the same list. He's there. He's up there.
Yeah, he's yeah, I've had the privilege of speaking with him. He's a really impressive coach for sure. Robert, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. We'll definitely be following you throughout the season, and hopefully we'll have you back on the show again sometime. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us today.
Anytime. Thank you for all you're doing, and speak soon.